Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on the construction projects module. My name is Indira Farah from the ArkFacilities Marketing Department. Before we get to the speaker and you see the demo, I just want to let you know that you can type your questions into the Q&A panel, and we'll get to those at the end of the session during the Q&A part. We are recording this webinar and we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording link in the next day. So keep a lookout from an email from ArkFacilities for that. So let's go ahead and introduce your speaker so we can dive in. John Sterlin, if you could go to the next slide. All right, John Sterlin, he's our VP of Product Development. John works with our technology team to create new products for facilities teams. He oversees all of our product development here. He's been with Ark since 2001. John's our product expert. So if you have any questions, please send them our way and John will be sure to answer them for you. So John, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Indira, and good morning, everyone. As you know, today we want to talk about the construction projects module. This is something that we've just released, and this is like, honestly, all of the development that we do really is in response to feedback from our customers, right? We've had our product in the marketplace for a while now, and one of the areas that we frequently get questions on has to do with renovations and basically just ongoing construction at our customer site. So as a result of those conversations and what we've learned, we put together this module, and today I'm excited to walk you through it, kind of show you what we've come up with. So before we do, let's kind of take a look at some of the basics. Why did we create this module? What were some of those conversations? And the basic situation, right? So today in the United States, about 72% of the buildings that you see are over 20 years old. 1 in 3 of those is actually over 50 years old. So why is that significant? Well, commercial buildings and school buildings, hospitals, that kind of thing, those buildings are always undergoing change, right? Take a moment, just think about how many renovations you guys do in your buildings. Right, it's a lot. It's constantly changing, and this past year, especially with the COVID situation going on and everything else, we've seen even more of that. Right, people are they're reorganizing the building to adjust entrances and exits and people routing and that kind of thing. We're seeing just a tremendous amount of renovation. So think about that over the life cycle of a building. You accumulate a ton of documentation. Right, all of that documentation ends up in rooms like these, right? You end up with cubbies with rolls and rolls and rolls of drawings. But now in the past, 15, 20 years, we've started to see that transition. So now it's not just paper, but now we're also starting to see that documentation show up on CD-ROMs or DVDs or USB drives or a download link, right? Somebody emails you a file download link. So you get these closeout packages, and now you have to take the time and energy to integrate them into your organization system. What is that organization system? In many cases, it might be these cubbies. So it can get really, really confusing. And when you start to think about, okay, now it's time for the next renovation, where do you go to get those documents, right? Where do you go to get everything so that you're starting from the correct set of as-builts? As I said, it can get really, really complicated. And if you think about the situation where I'm sure some of you are dealing with, where you've got multiple renovations going on at the same time, right? These things don't happen in series. They often happen simultaneously. And that just further complicates things. On top of that, we're also hearing from our customers as we talk to them that they're dealing with files that or information that shows up long after they have had to take the building live, right? So construction project ends, you've moved the cafe from the west side of the building to the east side of the building, and now, this other department is back where that cafe was. The building has changed dramatically, and now you've got to get it in operation. You've got occupants in there, you've got people there, you need to be able to support them, but you don't have the current documentation for that building, right? You don't have the current set of as-built for that, now that retrofit has happened, because often that closeout package doesn't show up for 6 months, right? Or maybe even more. Now you're having to operate new equipment and having to go out and find the O&M manual because it hasn't arrived yet in your closeout package, right? It's not productive. It's not safe, right? It creates an extra layer of challenge for you guys as you're operating those buildings. You're having to go out and track that information down. You're having to do the extra work, when in reality, that information generally should be available to you through the closeout package if you could get that information in a more timely manner, right? So this is the problem that we set out to solve with our construction projects module. So when we put it together, and this is, again, come from feedback, it's come from working with customers, we actually started to provide some of these kinds of services to some of our customers. And the idea that we approached it with was to kind of take the apple a day, preventative approach rather than, where's my bottle of Advil afterward, right? If we can prevent this problem from happening, that's a better situation for everybody than if we have to try to solve it after the fact. And so the way that we look at that is we developed this module so that during the actual construction, during that time when your construction team is out there doing those renovations, building that new wing or whatever it is they're working on, our team works with your project team to capture and organize that information during that construction process. Right. So as it's being built, we're capturing that information, we're organizing it, we're putting it in a nice, into a nice system that's available on a mobile device. This gives the facilities teams visibility into that project while it's being built if they want it, right? They don't have to wait till the end to find out what it's going to look like and what equipment's going to be in there, right? They can begin to learn about that before the project is done, right? So during the construction process, they've always got a current set of documents. They've got the latest set of specifications. They can see the RFIs. They've got access to all of this. But the most important part of this is at the end of that construction, literally on the day the keys get turned over and it's time to now, bring the occupants back into that space and reopen that space. You have the information you need to properly operate that space safely and effectively, right? Because that information has been gathered along the way, you don't have to wait for it. It's instantly available and can be transferred into the other modules of our system, and it can be available on your mobile device. So that's kind of just an overview of what the module looks like. I'm going to take a couple of minutes. I'm going to switch over to the actual app itself and walk you through what that actually looks like in the app. And then we'll come back. I'll do a little wrap up and we'll ask some questions. So with that, let's just go ahead and switch over. And I'm going to switch this over on my app here. There we go. All right. So I am now inside the ArkFacilities app, and I should have actually done that this way. So you can see I'm on an iPad, and I'm going to go ahead and open the ArkFacilities app. So as I said, this is a module within our app. You can see we've got each of the other modules here. The construction projects module shows up in the same mobile platform, and it's organized the same way as the other modules of our platform. So when I tap on construction projects, the first thing I'm going to see is a dashboard showing me all of the active construction projects that I've got going on at my building. Right. So my example here is I've got a hospital and I've got a bunch of different things going on. We're building a new wing, this west tower. Right. We've got some ADA ramps under construction. We've got some cafe upgrades. We've got a few other things going on. Right. This is pretty typical in a lot of healthcare facilities. You'd see a number of renovations going on simultaneously. Same thing at a school. Same thing at really any kind of organization. You frequently got these projects going on simultaneously. In fact, one of the things we've heard is that very often the next renovation starts before we've even received the closeout documents for the last one. And that's one of the things we're trying to address here. So as I mentioned, during the construction process with this module, we partner with your team to get up to become a part of that project documentation team. And so as we're going to take a look at this west tower, as we are working our way through the construction process, as this tower is being built, we are getting a copy of all of those plans and we're organizing them in here, right? All of those documents are available. They're all linked together. They all talk to each other. You can click and pinch and navigate your way around just like you can in the rest of our application. So you've got an always current set of documents. Every time a revision comes out, it gets integrated into the set. We keep track of that during the construction process. So this plans button is always current. Same thing with specifications. As the specifications get updated, we're integrating those updates into the specification here in the platform. We're keeping track of that organization. As the RFIs are being issued and responded, again, similarly, we'll keep track of that here. We actually pin them right on the drawing. So here's an RFI. You can see it's clouded on the document, so you can see specifically, which portion of the documents are being questioned and what the responses are. Again, all of this, we keep track of it here. And again, our target, our goal is to support you on the facility side in keeping track of this information, not necessarily the construction team, although obviously you can see a benefit for them as well. But this is something that for your side, for the facility side, we want to make sure you've got great visibility into this. Looking at those documents, because we are organizing all of this, we're also able to identify any discrepancies in the documentation, and we'll call those out. That gives you a chance to get documentation corrected before it gets delivered to you, so that at the end of this construction project, again, you're getting a complete, current, accurate set of documentation. As the process goes on, we're collecting all of that information for the closeout into these various buckets, whether that's the submittals, building it, putting together that set of as-builts from those plans as it finally comes to completion there, collecting the O&Ms and the warranties and, other documentation. So, excuse me, at the end of that construction project, we have, here's the O&M for that new boiler, here's the O&M for the HVAC unit, or for whatever other piece of equipment was installed. That gets captured here. Similarly, the warranties get captured along with it, so you know who to call, right? When you have an issue with that new piece of equipment that just got installed, you know who to call. One of the things we've heard over and over again is how frequently, unfortunately, you have a new piece of equipment installed that's under warranty, didn't know who the warranty was with, had a problem, had a crisis, had to deal with it, called our usual vendor, and now we've voided the warranty, right? We've not only paid for work we didn't need to pay for, but we've now voided the warranty as well. So we want to avoid those situations, and by having this documentation available, right from the start, we can help prevent that. Again, it's, shortening that time, so you're not waiting 6 months to get this information. You're getting it right out of the gate as soon as you're taking that part of the building or that renovation or that new space live. You've got what you need. Any other documentation that is important at that time can also be captured and dropped into this bucket, so it's available here. And again, like I said, at the end of the construction process, all of this information is then easily migrated into the other modules of our platform if you're using those. So you've got that right away, and you can be, like I said, up and running quickly and easily. So that's kind of the quick tour of the platform itself, of the module. Ultimately, the benefits that we see in this construction module really come down to improving your service levels, right from the start, from day one. You guys know how to properly operate that building. You've got the documentation and the information you need to do a good job, keep your building occupants safe, keep them comfortable, keep them happy. It helps, makes your team look good because you've got the information you need to do your job. Along those same lines, increased productivity. You're not spending time looking for information that you should have had from the start. You've got it. It's all right there. It allows you to get more done right out of the gate. Life safety and emergency response are two other areas that we've seen a huge impact here, right? If you don't have the information about your building, it's challenge. It's one more hurdle you have to overcome in order to ensure that your occupants are safe, to ensure that your space is safe. Right, we want to make sure you know where all of the fire extinguishers are. We want to make sure you know where, which piece of equipment you've got and how to properly operate it. And then lastly, in terms of emergency response, if your building changed, if you moved walls around, you made changes like that, we want to make sure you've got that information. Should you have to deal with a first response kind of a situation, first responders are standing outside, there's a fire in the building, how many locked doors are between here and that fire? Right, we want to make sure you've got the information, you've got that correct set of as-built drawings, so that you can share that with the fire department or first responder or whoever, and like I said, just help you to better deal with that emergency response situation. So today's session really is intended to be just kind of a quick look at this new module. We're super excited to get it out into the marketplace. As I said, we have been providing some of these services for some of our customers now for a little while, and it's been a really good experience for everybody involved. We've had great positive response from it, and we're now, like I said, excited to get it out in the world and share it with everybody else. I want to go ahead and bring this to questions and see, are there any other, are there thoughts, questions, feedback that you guys have? I'd love to be able to answer those for you and, see where we go from there. Indira, do we have any questions from?
Yep. Thanks, John. We do. We've got some questions coming in. I'll just dive right in here. Quick question here. Can you handle projects anywhere in the United States?
Yes. So pretty much anywhere in the U.S. we are covered. As you probably know, our parent company, Ark Document Solutions, is a very, very large organization. We have got physical offices in about 150 locations around the U.S. and around the world. And so we are able to leverage that footprint to be able to support our customers wherever they are. Even if we are not physically geographically close in one of those locations, we can usually still support you as well. So absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, a question here. See, many of the architects, engineers, and contractors we work with have their own construction management software that does a lot of this work. Our problem is that we can't possibly work with all these different systems and software, and we don't want to duplicate efforts. How well do you dovetail with other software packages?
Yeah, great question. And that's very, very common. And so early on, as we were trying to figure out how to help in this situation, that was something that came up is, as you correctly pointed out, the construction company usually has their own system. And that's why I say, when we developed this platform, we developed it for you, not for them, right? You are our audience. You are important to us. As much as we like those construction teams and the other side of our business, our parent company does a lot of work with them. That's not who we are focused on. We are focused on improving the situation for you. And so, as I mentioned before, what we are focused on is becoming a part of that project communication team during the process, and then we will collect and organize this information into our system and deliver it to you. Whatever other construction management system they may be using, that's up to them. That's their situation. We're not going to interfere with that. We are getting the resulting documentation and putting it into this system. If they can benefit from it, great. If they can't, that's not it's neither here nor there. It's the benefit is to you and to your team. That's where our focus is. So it's easy enough as we, when we get plugged into those construction teams, the documentation team, it's easy for us to gather that information and put it into this platform. We don't really interfere with or interact with those other platforms. We want to stay clear of that. Let those teams do what they do. Those systems are great. They have completely different function. We don't want to interfere with that.
All right, thanks, John. This is a two-part question. How do the documents get added, and what level of involvement does my team need to have?
So your team, the facilities team, really doesn't need to have any significant involvement, because it's primarily, at least during the construction process, that's really on the construction team side, right? The only real involvement you need to have is to connect us with them, to get our team plugged in with the construction communications, basically as those documents are being published, as the construction team is distributing those documents, we need to be a part of that pipeline, right? You need to make us a node in that pipeline so that we get all of that documentation. After that, there really is, from the facility side, there isn't anything that you need to do directly. You can, right? You can log in and see the information and access the information, but there's no requirement for you to do anything beyond that. At the end of the construction process, once that thing is built, once it's done, at that point, then we will deliver this information, this kind of completed package, to you and your team. And as I said, we can integrate it into the rest of our platform, into the other modules, or we can get delivered to you within the construction projects module, just as an electronic closeout package. Both of those are possible. So we try to do the heavy lifting, keep your team focused on the things they need to focus on, right? Your team has a day job, let them focus on that. We will try to take that heavy lifting here and organize that documentation into the system for you.
All right. This is a question, it looks like, from a customer. We have the ArkFacility solution on our site, are using it minimally. If we want, can we incorporate this module in that?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. That's exactly the way that it is. It was, designed. Was it can be a standalone, right? That's absolutely possible as well. But in the ideal scenario, basically, as the construction projects are happening, we're able to keep track of them here, organize that information, and shorten that amount of time so that once that construction is done, once it's complete, it's only marginally more complicated than flipping a switch, and the documentation is able to move and be immediately integrated into our buildings module or our O&M documentation module or our emergency module, whichever, wherever that information specifically needs to go. But that happens on the back end. Your team doesn't need to do it. Our team handles that for you. So if you are an existing ArkFacilities customer, you buy this for a particular project, then that information just gets automatically integrated at the end of the construction project.
Okay, here's another question. Where does all the data available in the app live? Is it on a customer server, an external server? The concerns around proprietary documentation, data security, and data retention.
Okay, wow, that's there's about 4 different questions in there, but let me see if I can tackle them. Yeah, so first off, where does it live? It lives in the cloud. ArkFacilities and all of our modules are hosted in the Amazon cloud. That is our hosting agent. It is absolutely secure. We are ISO 27001 certified. What that basically, for those not familiar with that is the ISO standard for data security. We follow that. In fact, we were just recertified again this past year. That's a recurring standard. You have to do stuff to stay current, and we do that. The information is in the cloud and safe. It's as safe as it would be in your bank or any other organization like that. We do take data security extremely seriously. Along with that, I will point out, because this has come up a number of times from organizations that feel their data is sometimes more secure locally, something that we have seen, especially with all of the cybercrime that we're seeing happening now. In fact, late last year, the FBI issued a statement or a notice that healthcare networks in particular were being targeted by ransomware. And we've seen with a number of the organizations we've talked to where organizations have been hit by ransomware and their entire local network has been locked up. By having the information in the cloud, we're actually separate and apart from that. And as a result, we've had a situation where an organization was completely locked up. They couldn't get to anything except they could get to their facilities information because it is in the cloud and it's hosted on our platform. So there are, data security is something we do take seriously. It is something to think about. In terms of ownership, the data is yours. We don't own it. We don't lock it up. We don't handcuff our customers. It's your data. It's available for you to download at any time to take it out of the system. If you wanted to host it somewhere else, you could. We believe in our system. We believe in the integrity of our system. We make that available to you through our subscriptions. And if you want your data back, it's always yours. You retain ownership of it. We don't lock it up. I think I answered all of the various pieces of that question. If I missed something, let me know.
Yeah, I think you did, John. Thank you. Here's another question. I have over 40 active projects at any given time. How many projects can the system handle?
There is really no limit to that. The system is organized such that each project is, as I showed on that dashboard, they're just separate little buttons on that dashboard. These are all of the active projects that are going on. There's no technical limitation to how many could happen. It's very, very common that our customers have a lot of active projects going on at the same time. So we did plan for that. And that's one of the benefits, to go back to the earlier comment about hosting in the cloud. That gives us basically infinite scalability. So, there really is no limit is the short answer to that, I guess.
Right. And another question here. Can my team see the project drawings immediately after the project is completed, or is there a delay?
So they can see those drawings throughout the entire process, right? So from the time we get started with the construction projects module, so during the actual construction, your team can have visibility into that, all the way through to the transition into the other modules, right? So up until the end of that construction, when you guys say, okay, this construction is over, now we want to migrate it into the other modules of the platform, you'll have visibility, and then there will be a short period of time where we will transition it. You'd still have visibility in the construction module, in the construction plans module, but once you give us that trigger point, once you've said, okay, this project is now done and we want it integrated, that migration, it's not more than a few days typically to migrate it in there. And then once that migration is done, it would disappear out of the projects module and you would see it only in the facilities module. But until it shows up in the building plans module, the emergency module, and the O&Ms module, you would have visibility in the construction plans module. So there's never a time where you don't have access to it. You always have it.
Okay, and just a couple more questions. These are two questions that are related, so I'll just ask them both here. Does this offload extra work or responsibilities on the construction team? And then the other question I see is, how can we as facility team members encourage our construction partners to provide the closeouts faster?
Okay, so like as I mentioned previously, the module itself is intended for you, the facilities team, right? You are our focus. You are our customer. You are the group that we want to take care of. Can it benefit the construction team? Yeah, absolutely, it can. And can you give access to them? Absolutely, you can do that. We don't charge per users, so you can absolutely include the construction team in that. In fact, as we have been developing this came through, like I said, we did this learning by working with some of our customers to develop it. We've had a number of situations where the construction team has actually paid for either this portion of the solution or our whole solution, because there is a long-term benefit to the construction team to having accurate as-builts. There's also a benefit to the construction team in having that information quickly, that closeout quickly available, right? If you think about it, a lot of construction companies get that last payment is tied to having the closeout delivered. So there can be benefits to it. That is not as much our focus. Our focus is taking care of facilities teams and them as our customer, but absolutely there can be a benefit to the construction team there. And like I said, there's no reason not to share. The answer to the other half of that question, how do we encourage a faster transition of the information? That's exactly why we created the module, right? That's by having that information organized, by keeping it neat and tidy and organized in this kind of a platform, that in and of itself overcomes the majority of the battle, right? The challenge in many cases to getting that closeout package is that the construction team is so busy during construction, they're not necessarily able to gather everything they need until the end, and then they got to spend a bunch of time picking up the pieces afterward and cleaning in and finding and tracking down all of that information. But by having our team collecting it along the way, the vast majority of it is there right at the, all the way along the project. So I don't want to say it completely invalidates the need for a closeout. It doesn't necessarily do that. But operationally, you have the information you need pretty much right from the time the keys to the building or that portion of the building are turned over to you, right? You've got, what the equipment is, you have the O&Ms, you've got the as-built drawings, because the system has been current all the way along. So it's a very, very short span of time. You're not having to wait months and months and months.
All right, well, thank you, John. We are right at time here. So for any questions we didn't get to, we'll definitely reach out individually so that we can get those answered for you. As a reminder, we recorded the webcast and we will send the link to everyone who registered. John, thanks so much for walking us through the construction projects module. We do hope to have everyone back for our next webinar where we'll, or at least our next live demo webinar, where we'll probably cover the emergency module. Thanks everyone for joining. And if you have any further questions, we do have our information here on the slide, and feel free to reply to any of those follow-up emails that we send over. Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Indira. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.